The Draconid Armada had swept across 17 star systems in 6 months. Their quantum steel vessels, bristling with gravitic cannons and powered by singularity drives, met token resistance at best. The galaxy's powers crumbled before them, the Alteri Consortium surrendering after a single battle, the vaunted Felon Republic collapsing after just 3 weeks of conflict. None could withstand the overwhelming technological superiority of the scaled conquerors. Admiral Krill Torvin of the Draconid First Assault Wing watched from the bridge of his flagship. The inevitability as the Persean system's defense platforms were systematically obliterated. His cold, reptilian eyes reflected the distant explosions while his scaled crest remained perfectly still, a sign of his complete lack of concern. "Another system falls before us," he observed, mandibles clicking slightly with satisfaction. "As expected." His second-in-command, Commander Basics, nodded her armored head. "The pattern repeats, Admiral. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Their ships cannot outmaneuver ours. Where is the challenge the ancient text promised?" Krill mused, four-fingered hand drumming against the crystalline command console. "The prophecies spoke of worthy adversaries among the stars. Yet we find only weaklings and cowards." The tactical officer interrupted. "Admiral, unusual readings from the edge of the system. Something just emerged from faster-than-light travel." Krill straightened his massive frame. "Show me." The holographic display shifted to reveal a vessel unlike any the Draconids had encountered. Where their ships were angular and gleaming, this craft was matte black, absorbing rather than reflecting light. It was sleek but substantial, bearing no visible weapons, yet radiating menace. Most peculiar was the complete absence of energy signatures, no propulsion emissions, sealed harmonics, or communication broadcasts. "Classification?" Krill demanded. "Unknown, Admiral," the tactical officer replied. "Configuration matches no known species in our database." "It appears to be waiting," Basics observed. Krill's pupils narrowed to vertical slits. "A challenge at last?" "Hail them." 3 attempts yielded nothing. The dark ship remained motionless, silent. "Deploy reconnaissance drones," Krill ordered. 5 spherical probes launched toward the mysterious vessel. When they approached within 1,000 kilometers, all 5 simultaneously disappeared from sensors. The bridge fell silent. "Impossible," whispered the tactical officer. Krill's crest finally stirred, rising slightly in the first display of concern his crew had witnessed. Launch fighters, full combat protocols. A squadron of 20 Draconid interceptors streaked toward the dark ship. As they closed distance, the mysterious vessel finally moved, a simple, elegant pivot that somehow seemed deeply threatening. Then, without warning or visible weapons discharge, all 20 fighters vanished. Not destroyed, there was no debris, no energy dispersion, no final transmissions. They simply ceased to exist. The dark ship transmitted a single text-only message across all frequencies in perfect Draconid language. "This system is now under protection of the Terran Shadow Fleet. You have 1 standard hour to withdraw all forces beyond the heliopause. This courtesy will not be extended twice." Krill's crest fully extended now, the involuntary biological response to extreme threat. "Terran, what species is this?" The intelligence officer frantically searched databases. "Minimal references, Admiral. A bipedal mammalian species from a peripheral world called Earth. Considered technologically primitive, they barely established colonies beyond their home system. They should pose no threat." "Evidently." Krill responded dryly. "That assessment requires revision." As he contemplated this unexpected development, a new alert sounded. "Admiral," the sensor operator reported, voice strained, "we're detecting identical energy signatures at the boundaries of every system we've conquered. More of these. Terran vessels are appearing everywhere simultaneously." Krill Torvin, conqueror of 17 systems, felt something he'd never experienced before: doubt. Commander Lissa Theovoros sat motionless in the command seat of the TSV Phantom, her olive-skinned face illuminated only by the dim glow of minimal bridge lighting. Unlike the garish, over-illuminated ships of most spacefaring species, Terran shadow vessels operated in near darkness, a small psychological edge that matched their technological ones. "One would think," she mused to her executive officer, "that a species advanced enough for interstellar conquest would recognize a predator when they see one." Commander Darius Lachesis allowed himself a slight smile. "Apex predators rarely do, Commander. They'd never had reason to look over their shoulders." The bridge of the Phantom was unlike conventional warships. No crew bustled about. Instead, 6 neurally linked operators reclined in acceleration couches, their minds directly interfaced with the ship's systems. This design wasn't merely efficient. It was necessary for operating the vessel's revolutionary technologies. Status of the Phantom field. Lysithea asked. Stable at 97%, replied Tactical Officer Orinkison, his eyes closed as he processed information through his neural link. The Draconids are scanning us with everything they have. They're seeing exactly what we want them to see, nothing. Lieutenant Themistoctus, the ship's science officer, reported without opening her eyes. Their biological responses indicate elevated stress hormones and respiratory rates. The psychological warfare aspect is working as intended. Lysithea nodded. And our sister ships, all in position, confirmed Navigation Officer Eris Moros. Phantoms are deployed at all 17 conquered systems. The Wraith, Spectre, Revenant, and Nightshade report identical Draconid reactions across the board. The plan had been years in the making. When humanity first detected the Draconid invasion force 3 years earlier, they had made a strategic decision that shocked their few alien allies. Instead of announcing themselves to the galactic community and joining the inevitable losing battle, they would remain hidden, developing countermeasures in secret while gathering intelligence as the reptilian conquerors advanced. The hour is nearly up, Darius noted. Lysithea accessed the tactical overlay through her neural link. The Draconid fleet remained in formation, having neither advanced nor retreated. They're debating, she observed. Good. Confusion breeds caution. Communications Officer Estrid Kiers suddenly straightened in her couch. Incoming transmission, Commander. Text only, all frequencies. Unknown vessel. You have demonstrated impressive capabilities, but you stand alone against the might of the Draconid Imperium. We control 17 systems with over 300 capital ships. Your terms are rejected. Depart or be destroyed. Lysithea's expression remained unchanged. They're probing for information, trying to determine if we're bluffing. She paused. Deploy the ghost drones. Throughout the Phantom, microscopic hatches opened, releasing a cloud of nanoscale robots invisible to conventional sensors. The swarm accelerated toward the Draconid fleet, carried on precisely calculated gravitational eddies. Ghost swarm active, Orion confirmed. Penetration of Inevitability's outer hull in progress. While the Draconid Admiral waited for a response to his message, undetectable infiltrators were already mapping his flagship's interior, analyzing its systems, and gathering tactical data. They're powering weapons, Iris reported. Multiple target locks attempting to establish. Implement Shadow Protocol, Lysithea ordered calmly. The Phantom didn't move, didn't raise shields, didn't power weapons. It didn't need to. When the Draconid vessels fired, their energy beams somehow missed, not by poor aim, but by finding themselves distorted around the space the Terran vessel occupied. Gravitational lensing, perfected to an art form by human physicists who had spent decades studying how light bent around black holes. Now, Lysithea said, let's respond appropriately. The Phantom didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, precisely calculated microsingularities appeared at specific points throughout the Draconid formation. These quantum knots in space-time didn't destroy the enemy vessels. They simply disabled them by temporarily warping local physics, rendering their systems inoperable. In less than 30 seconds, the entire Draconid fleet hung helpless in space. Transmission ready, Estrid announced. Lysithea nodded. For the first time, she would allow the Draconids to see a human face. The psychological impact would be calculated and precise. This is Commander Lysithea Voros of the Terran Shadow Fleet. Your weapons cannot touch us. Your shields cannot stop us. The terms remain unchanged. Leave or cease to exist. You have 10 minutes to signal compliance. As she ended the transmission, she knew that across 17 systems, identical scenes were playing out. Humanity had drawn its line. Admiral Trolltorben struggled to maintain his composure as he assessed the situation from the emergency command center of the Inevitability. The primary bridge systems had failed simultaneously when the strange distortions appeared throughout his fleet. 327 vessels, the pride of the Draconid Imperium, now drifted powerless. How? He demanded, slamming his scaled fist against the backup console. How can one primitive species possess such technology? Commander Vazix studied the limited sensor data still available. They hid Admiral. While we conquered openly, they watched and learned. The question now is whether they are bluffing about their full capabilities. The image of the human commander, this Lisi the Voros, still burned in Krill's mind. The lack of scales or protective carapace, the soft features that should have indicated weakness, yet the absolute confidence in those eyes. The Draconids had dismissed Blytzobel mammals as inferior life forms. Yet this one had disabled their entire assault wing without firing a single conventional weapon. 8 minutes remaining, Admiral, his timekeeper announced. The other systems report identical situations, the communications officer added. Every conquered world is facing one of these phantom vessels. Our forces are universally incapacitated. Crow paced, his ceremonial armor clicking against the deck plates. What do we know about these humans? Anything useful? The intelligence officer, who had survived the bridge shutdown, spoke hesitantly. Very little, Admiral. Their home system was cataloged as unremarkable by our long-range surveys. They appeared to have primitive, faster-than-light capabilities, and were building basic colonies on nearby worlds. Nothing indicated this. A deliberate deception, Bezits concluded. They weren't to be underestimated. Krull stopped pacing. Can we restore weapons? Shields? Not within the time frame, Admiral, the engineering office responded. Whatever they've done has disrupted quantum coherence in our power systems. Self-repair protocols are attempting to compensate, but estimates suggest full restoration will require hours, not minutes. 5 minutes remaining, the timekeeper updated. Krull finally did something no Draconid Admiral had done in 3 centuries of Imperial expansion. He considered retreat. If we comply, he asked slowly, can we trust them to release our ships? Basics considered. Their demonstration suggests they could have destroyed us already if that was their intention. Logic suggests they genuinely want us to withdraw. The tactical officer added, analysis of their communication patterns indicates honesty within their stated parameters. They appear to be territorial defenders, not conquerors. Unlike us, Krull noted with irony. 3 minutes remaining. Across the command center, officers watched their admiral with a combination of fear and curiosity. The Draconic Imperium had never faced a technological superior. Their cultural mythology didn't even have concepts for such a situation. Send the compliance signal, Krull finally ordered, his voice unnaturally quiet. All systems. Full withdrawal beyond specified boundaries. As the signal transmitted, the emergency lighting flickered, then stabilized. Throughout the fleet, power systems gradually returned to functionality. They're allowing us to retreat with dignity, Wasich observed. Interesting. Krull's crest flattened against his skull, a sign of deep contemplation. We must learn more about these humans, not for immediate conquest, but for understanding. They'd done what no species has accomplished before. As the Draconid fleet slowly regained power and began its coordinated withdrawal from the Persean system, Krull received reports that identical retreats were underway across all 17 conquered systems. The greatest expansion campaign in Draconid history had been halted by an enemy they hadn't known existed. Admiral, the communications officer interrupted his thoughts. We're receiving a final transmission from the human vessel. The message was simple. The species you've conquered are now under Terran protection. Any attempt to re-enter these systems will be met with permanent consequences. This is not a negotiation. As the inevitability limped away from Persean, Krull found himself doing something unprecedented. Researching human history. What he discovered disturbed him profoundly. These primitives had a warrior tradition that rivaled the Draconids, but with one crucial difference. Humans fought themselves constantly, driving technological innovation at a pace his species couldn't comprehend. While the Draconids had conquered outward, humans had nearly destroyed themselves countless times, emerging stronger from each near extinction. They hadn't needed external enemies to become formidable. We may have awakened something terrible, he murmured to Vasix as they watched the stars elongate into the patterns of hyperspace. The lunar deep form was humanity's most secure meeting facility, carved into the far side of Earth's moon, shielded from both observation and signal interception. Here, 12 individuals sat around a circular table of polished obsidian, while holographic displays showed real-time updates from across the formerly Draconid-occupied systems. Admiral Thaddeus Blackwood, Supreme Commander of the Uteran Defense Forces, stood at the head of the table. At 73, his weathered face and silver hair reflected decades of military service. Yet it was his contributions to quantum warfare theory that had earned him his position. Operation Shadowline has succeeded beyond our projections, he announced. The Draconid forces have withdrawn from all 17 systems. The Phantom Fleet commanders report no resistance or casualties. Director Olympia Veal of Terran Intelligence nodded slightly, her augmented eyes glowing faintly blue as she processed incoming data streams. Psychological impact exceeds our models. The Draconic command structure is experiencing unprecedented confusion. Their cultural identity as apex predators has been fundamentally challenged. Dr. Kenzo Hayashi, head of Quantum Applications Research, manipulated a holographic representation of the micro-singularity technology that had disabled the enemy fleet. The phantom field performed flawlessly. They literally could not see what they were facing, both metaphorically and literally. Around the table sat the other architects of humanity's shadow strategy, military leaders, scientists, politicians, and the enigmatic director of special contingencies, known only as Phoenix, whose actual identity remained classified even in this gathering. The question now, said United Earth President Eleanor Chen, is how we proceed. We've revealed some of our technological capabilities. The element of complete surprise is gone. Phoenix spoke, voice modulated to conceal gender and identity. That was inevitable. Our calculations showed that allowing the Draconids to continue their expansion would eventually create an enemy too entrenched to dislodge without massive casualties. We struck at the optimal moment. What are the liberated systems? Asked Ambassador Rehan Shah. They now know of Earth's existence and capabilities. They will seek alliance, protection, or to exploit our technology. Admiral Blackwood activated a new holographic display showing 17 star systems highlighted in green. Phase 2 of the operation is already underway. Shadow Fleet diplomats are making contact with the indigenous governments. Our approach is consistent. We offer protection without domination, which makes us distinctly different from the Draconids, noted Dr. Umar Okafer, the xenopsychologist. These species were conquered through superior force. They understand that paradigm. We need to ensure they don't simply see us as the new conquerors. President Chen frowned. How are we handling the technology disparity? We can't share our advancements indiscriminately. We won't, Phoenix assured her. Each system will receive defensive capabilities proportionate to their technological development curve. Nothing that would destabilize their societies or that they couldn't theoretically develop within 50 years naturally. Admiral Blackwood continued, meanwhile we maintain the Shadow Fleet at their borders. The Phantoms remain their primary protection while they rebuild. And the Draconids, asked General Konstantin Volkov, his artificial eye focusing intently on the tactical displays. They will not accept defeat permanently. Director Veal responded, our infiltration drones collected extensive data on their technology, biology, culture, and psychology. We understand them far better than they understand us. Intelligence suggests they are already conducting emergency research into countermeasures for our phantom technology. Let them, Dr. Hayashi said with quiet confidence. The technologies they witnessed are already 3 generations behind what we're developing. By the time they create countermeasures, we'll have moved beyond those systems entirely. The conversation paused as new information flowed into the chamber's displays. Commander Lysithia Voros was reporting from the Phantom. Admiral, she said, her holographic form standing at attention, we're detecting unusual subspace communications from the retreating Draconid fleet. Analysis suggests they're contacting previously unknown elements of their military. Patterns indicate summoning reinforcements or activating reserved assets. Admiral Blackwood nodded. As expected, they're too proud to accept defeat without attempting to save face. Commander, maintain vigilance but no offensive action unless directly threatened. Understood, sir. Lysithia replied before her hologram disappeared. Phoenix leaned forward. This brings us to the critical question. Do we maintain a defensive posture, or do we take the initiative while we hold the advantage? The council chamber grew quieter as the implications settled across the obsidian table. Humanity has never been the aggressor in interstellar affairs, President Chen reminded them. I don't intend to establish that precedent during my administration. Not aggression, Phoenix countered. Strategic preemption. The Draconids will return, potentially with technologies specifically designed to counter what they've observed. Admiral Blackwood raised his hand for silence. We need more intelligence before making that determination. For now, we consolidate our position, assist the liberated systems, and prepare contingencies for all scenarios. As the meeting continued into the night, Humanity's leadership debated the moral and strategic implications of their newfound position in galactic affairs. The line had been drawn, but what came next would determine whether humans would be seen as guardians or simply the next conquerors. The Draconid High Command Complex on Draconis Prom hummed with unprecedented activity. In the 9 days since the retreat from occupied territory, the massive pyramidal structure had not entered its usual night cycle shutdown. Lights burned continuously as the Empire's greatest minds struggled to comprehend their defeat and plan their response. Supreme Overlord Zaltak IV, ultimate authority of the Draconid Imperium, sat motionless on the crystal throne, his ancient scales bearing the ceremonial markings of 300 years of leadership. Around him, 5 fleet admirals, including the disgraced Krill Torvin, waited in nervous silence. "You claim," Zaltak finally spoke, his voice carrying the gravelly resonance of extreme age, "that a species unknown to us until 9 days ago possesses technology that renders our fleets helpless." Admiral Torvin stepped forward, head lowered in the traditional posture of submission. "Supreme One, I have provided all sensor data and personal observations. These humans disabled 327 warships simultaneously without conventional weaponry. They manipulate gravitational fields and quantum states in ways our science had considered theoretical. And yet," Zaltak observed, "they did not destroy our vessels when they clearly possessed the capability." Curious. The Imperial Science Director Nevrax manipulated a holographic display with her slender fingers. "Our analysis confirms Admiral Torvin's report. The humans employed technology at least 2 centuries beyond our current development trajectory. Most concerning is their apparent mastery of quantum phase manipulation and gravitational lensing. Could they have acquired this technology from another species?" asked Fleet Admiral de Zix. "Perhaps they are merely wielding borrowed power." Nevrax shook her head. "Unlikely. The implementation shows distinctive patterns of innovation that suggest organic development. More troubling is what our deep space observatories have recently discovered." She expanded the holographic display to show a stellar map of human expansion. "They have been methodically exploring and establishing presence throughout their region of space for decades, all while maintaining a deceptively primitive appearance to outside observation. Our long-range surveys were deliberately missiled." Zaltak's ancient eyes narrowed. "A species that practices deception as strategy. Interesting, unlike the forthright conquest that has served our kind for millennia." Intelligence Director Mevkor stepped forward, his ceremonial armor clicking softly. "Supreme One, we have activated our deepest infiltration assets in pursuit of human intelligence. The results are disturbing." The display shifted to show human historical records, countless wars, technological revolutions, artistic achievements, philosophical debates. "They fight amongst themselves constantly," Mevkor explained. "Their technological advancement is driven primarily by internal competition and conflict. Where we evolved through conquest of other species, they evolved through conquest of themselves and their environment. They developed in isolation, hardened by challenges we never faced." Admiral Torvin added, "Their history suggests a species that thrives on overcoming limitations. Each time they approach self-destruction, they emerge stronger." Zaltak rose from his throne, moving with surprising grace for his ancient frame. "And now they have encountered us, their first truly external threat. How will they respond?" The chamber fell silent as the implications settled among the Empire's leadership. "We have 3 options," Fleet Admiral Zesik finally offered. "First, we accept this defeat, withdraw permanently from the contested territories, and establish clear boundaries with this human sphere." "Unacceptable," hissed Admiral de Zix. "No species defies the Imperium without consequences." "Second," Zesik continued, "we marshal our full military might, not just the exploration fleets, but our core defense forces, and launch an overwhelming campaign to crush this human threat before it can spread further." Nevrax interjected, "Based on observed technology disparities, even our complete military mobilization would likely fail. Their advantage appears qualitative, not merely quantitative." "And the third option," Zaltak prompted. Zesik hesitated. "We learn from them." The chamber erupted in hisses of disapproval. For millennia, Draconid cultural supremacy had been unquestioned. The notion of learning from mammals was nearly blasphemous. "Silence," Zaltak commanded, and the chamber instantly quieted. "Admiral Torvin, you face these humans directly. What is your assessment?" Kroll straightened his posture. Supreme One, they are unlike any adversary we have encountered. They think differently. Where we see conquest as the path to security, they appear to value defensive capabilities and deterrence. They could have destroyed us, yet chose restraint. Weakness, spat Admiral de Zix. Perhaps, Krill acknowledged, or perhaps a different kind of strength. One we do not yet comprehend. Saltak returned to his throne, his expression unreadable. Bring me the ancestral texts, he ordered. The chamber grew still. The ancestral texts were rarely consulted. They contained the oldest wisdom of the Draconid species, including prophecies and warnings from the dawn of their civilization. When the crystalline tablets were brought forward, Zaltak activated their embedded data systems. Ancient glyphs floated in the air, rearranging themselves as the Overlord searched for specific passages. Here, he finally said, the warning of scales and stars, transcribed by Seer Vox Talid 20,000 years ago. Beware the silent watchers who learn before revealing themselves. When conquerors meet those who conquered themselves first, the path divides toward either transcendence or oblivion. The chamber remained absolutely silent as Saltak closed the ancient text. We have encountered the silent watchers, he declared. Now we must determine which path we shall follow. 6 months after the Draconid retreat, Commander Lysithea of Oros stood on the observation deck of the newly established Terran embassy on Alteri Prime. The curved transparent wall offered a panoramic view of the planet's 3 moons rising over an alien cityscape, a world that had known Draconid occupation and now experienced something entirely different. Partnership with humanity. Ambassador Rehan Shah joined her at the viewport. Remarkable progress in half a year, wouldn't you say, Commander? Lysithea nodded. The Alteri are resilient. All 17 liberated systems are recovering faster than our models predicted. Not just recovering, Shah corrected. Thriving. Our approach is working. Provide defense, offer limited technological assistance, but allow them to maintain cultural and political autonomy. Litham, the Alteri capital, hummed with activity. New construction incorporated both traditional Alteri architecture and subtle influences from human design philosophies. Not imposition but collaboration. The Shadow Council meets tomorrow. Lysithea noted. Have you completed your assessment? Shah nodded. My recommendation will be to continue our current strategy. The Diplomatic Corps has established effective relationships with all 17 species, even the Philins, despite their initial suspicion. And the Draconids? Lysithea asked, though she already knew the answer. That, said a new voice, is where matters get interesting. They turned to find Phoenix entering the observation deck, still wearing the identity-concealing attire that had become something of a legend among Terran forces. Even on diplomatic missions, the Director of Special Contingencies maintained absolute anonymity. Director, both officers acknowledged with respectful nods. 3 days ago, Phoenix explained about Preamble. We received a formal communication request from the Draconid Supreme Overlord, not a military channel. A philosophical one. Lysithea's eyebrows rose. Philosophical? Their leader wishes to engage in what they call the dialogue of civilizational paths. Apparently, it's an ancient Draconid tradition reserved for evolutionary crossroads. Phoenix moved to the viewport, gazing at the alien sky. Their historical records show this ritual has been invoked only twice in their 20,000-year recorded history. Shah looked skeptical. Could be a delaying tactic while they develop countermeasures to our technology. Undoubtedly, they're attempting that as well. Phoenix agreed. But our intelligence suggests something more profound is occurring within their empire. A genuine ideological struggle between traditional conquest philosophy and a new perspective. Lysithea considered this. We demonstrated technological superiority, but more importantly, we showed restraint. That combination doesn't exist in their historical experience. Precisely, Phoenix said. We've created cognitive dissonance in a species that has defined itself through conquest for millennia. Now they must either evolve their understanding or double down on their existing paradigm. A gentle tone indicated an incoming communication. The embassy's AI announced, priority message from TSP Phantom. Lieutenant Commander Orion Kazan, reporting unusual activity at the border of Draconid space. The observation deck's displays activated, showing Orion's face. Commander, we're detecting a single Draconid vessel approaching the neutral zone. Configuration is unusual, not a warship. The design appears ceremonial. Phoenix stepped forward. Configuration matches historical records of the Draconid vessel of discourse. a ship specifically designed for civilization-level diplomatic encounters. Ambassador Shaw looked concerned. Is this their version of a white flag? More significant, Phoenix replied. Their history suggests this vessel has been deployed only for meetings that fundamentally altered their civilization's direction. Lysithea made a quick decision. Lieutenant Commander, maintain position but allow the vessel to approach. Inform Admiral Blackwood and request instructions. Already done, Commander, Orion confirmed. The Admiral has authorized first contact Protocol Delta. You requested to rendezvous with the Phantom within 12 hours after the communication ended. Lysithea turned to Phoenix. You anticipated this. I calculated probabilities, Phoenix corrected. Humanity's emergence challenged their most fundamental assumptions. They could respond with either maximum aggression or profound reassessment. It appears they've chosen the latter, at least tentatively. Ambassador Shaw looked troubled. And if this is elaborate deception, then we remain prepared. Phoenix stated simply. The Shadow Fleet stands ready. The Phantom technology they witnessed has already been succeeded by 2 new generations of quantum defense systems. We negotiate from strength, not necessity. As preparations began for Lysithea's departure, she took a final moment at the viewport, watching alien citizens go about their lives in newfound freedom. This was always about more than defense, wasn't it? She asked Phoenix quietly. Humanity had a choice when we detected the Draconic expansion. Phoenix acknowledged. We could have revealed ourselves immediately, joined the existing galactic community in its doomed resistance. Instead, we watched, learned, and prepared. Not just to defend ourselves, Lysithea realized, but fundamentally changed the rules of interstellar relations. Phoenix nodded. For too long, the galaxy operated on principles of domination and submission. Species either conquered or were conquered. We introduced a third option, protective partnership without domination. As the moons of Altari Prime completed their rise into the night sky, Lysithea contemplated the mission ahead. She would face the leaders of a species that had conquered 17 worlds, yet had been stopped by a single dark ship that drew the line. They're going to ask why we didn't destroy them when we had a chance, she predicted. Yes, Phoenix agreed, and your answer will determine whether this becomes the beginning of a new galactic order or merely a temporary pause in the old one. Lysithea smiled slightly. Then I should choose my words carefully. Indeed, Phoenix said, though sometimes actions speak more eloquently than words. The fact that 17 liberated worlds now thrive under protection rather than occupation makes a compelling argument for our way. As Lysithea departed to prepare for her mission, she reflected on humanity's strange journey. After centuries of fighting amongst themselves, humans had finally united just in time to face an external threat. And in doing so, they had not merely defended their corner of the galaxy, they had potentially changed its future. The universe had never seen anything like humanity before, a species that combined technological brilliance with ethical restraint, aggressive capability with defensive priorities. The Draconids had conquered many worlds, but they had never encountered a species that drew a line and said no further and had the power to enforce it. The shadow had finally stepped into the light,